Welcome to Cake Playground, where it's all about the fun. This lesson is on how to make a gum paste peony. This beautiful flower will make an excellent decoration for your next cake. You can use it on its own or in a beautiful decoration like this. First, we'll start off by forming the center. You can either use a styrofoam ball or a gum paste center. I'll show you both methods. First, the styrofoam ball. You will need 20 gauge paper covered floral wire, needle nose pliers with a cutter, and 1.5 inch smooth styrofoam ball. Use your cutter to cut the wire in half. We're going to use the needle nose pliers to make a loop in the wire, like this. When you're done, the loop should measure about 1/2 inch, like shown here. Take the straight end of the wire and put it through the styrofoam ball. Push it all the way through until you get to the loop. When you get to the loop, push it through the styrofoam ball until it's flush like this. Now, if you want to make the gum paste center like this, you start off with 20 gauge wire, floral tape, and needle nose pliers. First, we're going to start off by making a tape bud. Stretch your floral tape and then wrap it 10 times around your wire. Now, this wire has been cut in half just like we did with the styrofoam method. Once you've wrapped the tape around 10 times, use your needle nose pliers to make a loop, just like we did with the styrofoam method. And then wrap the tape around 10 more times. This helps to make the tape bud. Once you've wrapped around 10 times, you're going to continue down the wire to the end with the floral tape. So keep some tension on the tape so it sticks to itself. You see here I have it kind of angled to keep tension. When you get to the end, just tear off the floral tape and smooth it. We're going to go ahead and color up the whole amount of gum paste we're going to use for the whole flower. So I have about a 3-inch ball colored in electric pink. We're going to break off about a 1.5 inch ball for the center of this peony. And then we're using egg white to adhere the gum paste to the tape bud. So roll your 1.5 inch ball until it's smooth. Then apply some egg white to your tape bud you just made. And you're going to insert it into the center of the gum paste ball. And then pinch it around the end so you make sure it's really stuck to the tape bud, like this. Insert the wire into some styrofoam so we can let the center dry completely. It usually takes about 2 to 3 days. For the first set of petals, we're going to be using the smallest cutter out of the peony set, along with the peony veiners. We'll be making 6 petals. To start off, we're going to use a little bit of shortening. Work a little bit of shortening into the gum paste. It makes it much easier to use and more pliable. Now we're going to roll the gum paste. Notice when I roll the gum paste that I turn it 90 degrees between each roll, rolling from the center out. This helps the gum paste to keep from sticking. You want to roll it so you can see through it a little bit, but not too much. It looks like it's about a 1/16 of an inch. You really don't want to roll it too thin. When you have the gum paste at the thickness you want, use the small cutter. Press it down evenly into the gum paste. Now you don't want to lift the cutter up like this. You want to rub it around on the rough surface. I'm using kind of a rough cutting board here to help cut against the cutter. So rub it around, then hold the cutter down and pull away the excess gum paste. Once you've pulled away the excess gum paste, turn the cutter over and then use your fingers to rub away the excess. Once you've rubbed away the excess from the edges, then you can press out the petal. If you still have any rough edges on your petal, you can pick it up and use your fingers to smooth the edges of the petal so you don't have any rough places. This will just give your petal a more natural look. You can keep the petals under a sheet of plastic or acetate to keep them from drying out. To shape the petals, you will use a veiner and a thick foam and thin foam, along with a gum paste tool. So put the petal between the two pieces of silicone veiner. Remove the petal, place it onto the thin foam. You're going to use the edge of the gum paste tool to thin the edges of the petal like this. Run vertical to the ridges. Once you've thinned the petals, you can cup them slightly using the gum paste tool on a thick piece of foam like this. Store the petals under a plastic cup while you're working on the other 5 petals to keep them from drying out. To stick the petals to the center, brush about halfway down the petal with egg wash. For the first petal, you're going to cover the hole where the wire was. Shape the petal against the ball like this. Apply the second petal on the opposite side and overlap with the first one. Again, you're going to brush egg white about halfway up. If you need to, you can brush egg white in any spaces that are not sticking. Try not to brush egg white on the outside of the petal. Petals 3 and 4 will go here and here. Brush egg white on the petal and place it over the top of petals 1 and 2. Again, if you need to, you can use a little egg white to keep the petals sticking. Try not to brush on the outside. Use the palm of your hand to shape the petals against the round center. Petals 5 and 6 will go opposite of 3 and 4, applied in the same way. Use your finger and the palm of your hand to smooth the petals against the round center. You want the petals to be relatively flush for this first set of petals. It should look like this. For the second set of petals, we're going to be using the medium cutter. So cut, vein, thin, and shape 5 petals like we did before. The second set of petals is going to go in between the spaces shown here in the first set of petals. You want to line the top of the second set of petals slightly below the first set. Don't worry if there is any exposed styrofoam ball in this set of petals. It will be covered later. So align the second set of petals like this. Now you're going to go ahead and apply the other 4 petals. When you apply the other 4 petals, you want to make sure that one side of the petal is on the outside and one side of the petal is on the inside. This will help to form a spiral with the petals. As you apply the 5th petal, like this, slide the left side under one side and put the right side on the outside. So right side on the outside, left side on the inside to help form a spiral like this. If you need to, you can use a little egg wash to stick down any areas that are not adhering properly. Put the flower in your hand and form the petals. You want them curved in. They don't have to be as tight as the first set, but you want them pretty much formed to the center. The third set of petals will also be made with the medium cutter. So you're going to cut, vein, thin, and shape 5 petals like you did before. You're going to apply them in the same way that you did before too. You want this third set to be slightly lower than the second set of petals. Again, you don't have to worry at this point if you have some exposed styrofoam, because the last set of petals will cover the styrofoam. Remember again that you want the petals to be in a spiral. So one side of the petal will be on the outside, one side of the petal will be on the inside. When you're done putting the petals on, take a quick check and arrange them so that one is on the outside like this and one's on the inside. While it's still wet, you can still rearrange them. Take a look at the petals to make sure they are looking the way you want them to, and then hang the flower upside down. You're going to put some cotton underneath this set of petals, so use a pair of tweezers and a small piece of cotton. This will help to cup this set of petals and make them spread out a little bit like this. For the fourth set of petals, we're going to be using the large cutter. So you're going to cut 5 large petals, vein, thin, and shape them as before. This time when you put on the large petal, you're going to make sure that you cover the styrofoam and place the petal between the 2 petals from the previous set. So make sure that there's no exposed styrofoam. Again, make sure if there's any overlap to arrange the petals so that one side of the petal is on the inside and one side is on the outside. You're going to place cotton under this set of petals as well to shape them and to pull them away from the center of the flower. So use your tweezers and cotton. Once the flower has dried, you can use the tweezers to remove the cotton. So you can see here how the cotton has pulled away these petals to make a more full flower and give it shape. The 5th, 6th, and 7th layers of petals are wired. There'll be 10 large petals and 5 extra large petals. They'll all be made the same way but shaped differently on spoons as shown here. The petals use 24 gauge floral wire. Put a little bit of egg white at the end of the wire, and then about an inch down from the end of the wire, put a little bit of gum paste. The goal is to cover the wire with the gum paste with a thin coating. So rub the gum paste between your fingers to adhere it to the wire. If you have some excess at the end, just pull it off, and then cover the end with gum paste. Now place your petal on the veiner, place the wire on the petal, and put the top of the veiner on top. Press it down, and this will now adhere the wire to the petal. When you go to pull the petal off, don't pull it from the wire here. Pull it from the side, otherwise the wire will pull through the gum paste. Place the petal wire side down onto the thin foam. We're going to thin the petal as we did before, using the side of the gum paste tool. Then transfer the petal to the thick foam, and we're going to shape the petal like we did before using the gum paste tool. Now transfer the petal wire side down into a spoon. For the first 5 petals, we're going to form them on the inside of the spoon. The next 5 large petals will be formed the same way, but they'll go on the outside of the spoon like this. and slightly flared on the countertop. So this goes in, this one goes out slightly flared, and the extra large set goes on the outside slightly flared also. I'll give you a side view to show you how different placement on the spoon will give you different shapes. So the more interior petals curve in, the exterior petals curve out. So it looks like the flower is unfolding. After the petals have dried somewhat on the spoon, hang them to dry completely. Once the petals have dried completely, you can apply color. And this is the fun part. You really feel like an artist. I'm using a light shade of green, some dark red, and pink to add colors to the petal and flower. Place your colors onto a paper towel. I'm using a flat brush to apply the color. So I'm going to blend a little bit of this dark red with pink to get the shade that I want. I'm using the flat side of the brush to apply color to the edge of the petal. Be sparing with the color in the beginning. It's easier to add color later, but you can't take it away if you put too much on there. And don't worry about the excess dust that's sitting there on the petal. You can blow that away later if you want to. So I'm using the long side of the brush, stroking along the veins of the petal. And so the color looks like this. You can see how it just adds a pop and makes the petal look more realistic and gives it some depth and shadow. See the difference? Looks great. Now I'm going to add some green at the base of the petal. The heavier color will be at the base toward the wire. So brush from the base upward, darker at the bottom, lighter toward the top, and do the back and the front of the petal. Look at the change that a little color makes. Now you're going to color the interior part of the flower in the same way. Place color along the edge and then run the brush long ways along the ridges. Like this. It kind of mimics the petals we did before. And apply a little bit of color on the interior bud portion of the flower, also in the same way. You're going to add the green down at the base of the petals, like this. You want the petals to mimic the flower. Now we're going to put some green on the back side of the flower, also to mimic the petals. Any excess, just blow it away. To set the color, we're going to put the flower over a little bit of steam. You can use a steamer or just a boiling pot of water. Make sure the petals don't get too wet. You just want them to glisten slightly. That's enough. And then hang them to dry till they're not sticky anymore. Now we're going to tape the petals to the flower. Remember, we had different shapes here. We're going to start with the interior petals curved inward on the inside of the spoon. So start with these 5 petals. Stretch the floral tape. You're going to take the first petal and nestle it up against the base of the flower. Bend the wire back so it's flush with the wire on the flower, like that. Now you're going to start the floral tape and wrap it around a couple of times so that the first petal is secure, like this. Next, you're going to add in the next petal and go around a couple more times with the floral tape to secure this petal. and then the other 3 remaining petals. So it looks like this. Now you're going to continue down the wire and cover it completely. Remember, you want to keep tension on the wire and go all the way to the end and break off the paper tape at the end and smooth it. You're going to do the other set of petals the same way. So the next set is the large curved out and then the extra large curved out. Make sure between each set that you go down the floral wire to the end. So you'll have extra large, large, large curved in. And this is how it looks on the back. There you have it. Your beautiful peony. Aren't you happy? Aren't you proud of yourself? Now you can make all of your cakes look great with this stunning flower. Please visit CakePlayGround.com for the equipment list and product list used in this video. Also, follow CakePlayGround.com on Facebook. Remember, at Cake Playground, it's all about the fun.